I never understood why some memories refuse to die, even when the people connected to them are long gone. Maybe because memories don't really belong to people. They belong to places. They belong to walls. They belong to silence. And silence. Silence remembers everything. My name is Adeel. For the past 8 years, I lived alone in the apartment my father left me before he passed away. It wasn't a fancy place, just a quiet, old, slightly cracked building at the end of a narrow street. But it was home. Or, used to be. After my father died, I stopped calling anything home. I spent most of my days working long hours, eating cold takeout meals, scrolling through endless social media, and sleeping too little. I wasn't depressed, at least that's what I told myself. I was just tired. Tired of living, tired of pretending I was okay, tired of missing someone I was never ready to lose. In that entire apartment, the only thing that actually bothered me was the second bedroom. Not because of what was inside, but because of what wasn't. The door had been locked for 8 years. 8 years of dust. 8 years of silence. 8 years of me pretending it didn't exist. My father once told me, Beta, ye kamra tab kolna, jab tum tayar ho. I used to laugh and say, Abu tayar kis cheese kaliya? He always smiled in that half-tired, half-wise way of his. Whacked bata dega. But whacked kabi kuch sahi time pe nahi batata. I ignored that room for years. Sometimes, when crossing the corridor late at night, I felt like the closed door was staring at me. Like it wanted to say something. Or maybe I just missed my father too much. Maybe grief makes you imagine things that never existed. For 8 years, I lived without opening that door. Until the night everything changed. It was the first heavy rain of the season. The kind of rain that sounds like someone is drumming their fingers on your window non-stop. I was lying on my bed, phone in my hand, pretending to scroll while my eyes burned with exhaustion. Outside, thunder rumbled like a giant turning in its sleep. At exactly 2:30 a.m., I heard it. 4 soft footsteps. Then a pause. Then 4 more. Inside the locked room. I jolted upright. The sound was unmistakable. Slow, deliberate footsteps. The kind someone makes when pacing, thinking, remembering. I stared at the door from across the hall, waiting for the sound to come again. And it did. Tap, 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 tap. Pause. Tap, 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 tap. My throat dried up. I told myself it was water dripping from the ceiling. Maybe the rain had created an echo. Maybe I was just hearing things. But no echo in the world walks in patterns. The next night, the same thing happened. And the next. And the next. Always 2:30 a.m. Always the same pattern. Always from the same locked room. I tried everything a rational adult does. Earphones. Loud videos. Sleeping on the couch. Even pretending I didn't hear anything. But you can't ignore footsteps in your own home. The real terror wasn't the footsteps. It was the fact that they weren't random. They were steady. Controlled. Almost thoughtful. By the 10th night, I couldn't take it anymore. I woke up exactly at 2:33 a.m. This time, there were no footsteps. There was a voice. A soft whisper. Weak. Tired. Almost like someone who had waited far too long. Adeel. I froze. Silence. Then the voice came again, a faint breath carried through the cracks of the door. Adeel, open the door. Every hair on my body stood up. Not out of fear, but because I recognized that voice. It was my father's. Or at least, it sounded exactly like him. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch until dawn, knees to my chest, shaking without knowing why. The following morning, sunlight spilled into the corridor as I stood in front of the locked room. For years I avoided touching that handle. But today, I placed my trembling hand on it. The metal felt cold. Too cold. I slowly turned the handle. The lock clicked open. But I hadn't opened it. Someone else had. Something else had. My heart hammered against my ribs like it wanted to escape. I pushed the door. A dull creak echoed like a whisper from the past. Inside, everything was still. Dust hung in the air like tiny memories floating in sunlight. There was a small wooden desk, a chair, a stack of old books, and the familiar broken lamp my father tried to fix 100 times. A folded prayer mat lay in the corner. And on the wall, a framed photo of my father holding me when I was 5. His smile still felt warm. Under the photo, on the desk, was a wooden box with a note. For Adeel, when you're ready. My eyes stung as I opened the box. Inside were dozens of letters. All in my father's handwriting. Letters he wrote over the years but never gave me. Letters he wasn't alive long enough to hand over. My hands shook as I read the first one. Adeel, Kabi Jishi Se Nafrat Mat Rakna. Nafrat Insan Ko Surf Andakardi Hai. Another one said. Beta, Agar Kabi Danaya Se Thak Jo, to Yad Rakna, Jishi Ko Batana Kamzori Nahi Hodi. Another. Kosh Main Ani Tumher Soth Sayada Wakt Gazara Hoda. Zindagi Animui Tum Se Dor Raka, Parmera Dil Hamesha Tumher Sotha. And then the last letter. The one that shattered me. Beta, Main Janta the Ek Din Tum Bilkal Akela Ho Joj. Isliya Yi Kamra Band Raka. Tak Jab Tum Sach Main Tut Jo. Tab Mera Pyar Tumher Tute Hu His Son Ko Jad Sake. I broke down. Years of held back grief burst out of me. I sat on the floor and cried until my chest hurt, until my breathing turned into gasps, until the silence of the room wrapped itself around me like a soft blanket. I don't remember how long I stayed there, but when I finally stood up, the room didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt full. Warm. Familiar. Like my father's presence hadn't left. Like he had just stepped out and would return any moment. That night, I expected the footsteps again. The whispers. Something. Instead. There was silence. The kind of silence that feels peaceful, not empty. A silence that gently tells you. I'm still here, just in a different way. The following weeks, I opened that room every morning. Cleaned the dust. Organized the books. Lit a small lamp. Placed fresh flowers near my father's picture. Not because of superstition, but because love keeps places alive. As I spent more time there, strange things started happening, but not frightening things. Whenever I sat to read the letters, the air in the room felt warmer. Whenever I prayed on the mat, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. Whenever I looked at the picture, the loneliness in my heart softened. One night, while sitting in the room, I whispered to the air. Abu, Agar Aap Ho, to Mui Moth Kaji. Main Bohat der Se Iahun. And I swear. I felt a gentle warmth on my shoulder. Like a hand. A comforting hand. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it was grief. Maybe it was something beyond this world. But whatever it was, it didn't scare me. It healed me. Slowly, my life began to change. I started waking up earlier. Started cooking real meals. Started calling old friends back. Started talking to my aunt, who I hadn't visited for years. Started taking long walks. Started thinking about living again. The letters became my daily therapy. A conversation with a man who was no longer alive, yet somehow still guiding me. One day, I found a letter buried at the bottom of the box. The ink was slightly faded, as if it was written many years before the others. Adeel, Agar Ek Din Tum Yi Padho, to Yad Rakna, Insan Surf Tab Takakela Hoda Hai Jab Tak Wajishi Ko Yad Nahi Karda. Tum Jab Mui Yad Kardi Ho, Main Tum Hair Pas Hoda Hoon. I pressed the letter to my chest. For the first time in years, I smiled without forcing it. I don't know whether footsteps still echo in that room, or whispers still slip through the walls. Because now, I don't listen with fear. I listen with love. Some rooms stay locked not to hide darkness, but to protect light until the right moment. And some doors, no matter how late, are meant to heal you, not scare you. I kept that room open. Always.